Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to be answering a question that I get a lot, actually. What is it like, cost-wise, to own a 20-year-old supercar, sports car, again, call it what you want. But first, we have to go to Henry's camera, and I need to pick something up. So I will see you when we get there, and we'll talk about it. Okay, got that out of the way. This evening, we are going to World of Wheels. I'm going to be meeting my buddy Mike there, my brother in Porsche, his videographer Tyler from Ranked Productions. That'll be next week's video. Yes, I'm old. I listen to old music. Okay, so we're gonna head off someplace that's not a busy parking lot in a strip mall, and we'll talk about the cost of ownership of a car like this. See you in a few. This video is brought to you by Modify Me. If you need tint, wrap, decals, PPF, ceramic, they are your go-to in the Winnipeg area. And if you use the code SHANE10, you get 10% off any service that they currently offer. Now back to the video. So, you're thinking about buying an older 911. Maybe not an air-cooled. This is the first generation of the water-cooled. And this one's 20 years old. It's 2003. The 996 came out in, I believe it was 1998. This is a 996-2, so it's got a couple updates. But, if you're looking to buy one, there are things you need to know. Now, obviously, maintenance is something you have to take into consideration. These cars do require special service, special knowledge, sometimes special tools. Things like oil changes, air filter, fairly basic stuff. But again, it depends on the car itself. Some cars, like this one, have a dry sump oil system, which a lot of technicians may not be familiar with if you take it to your local independent. Nothing against them. Once they know what they're doing, they're usually quite good, but not always recommended. That said, however, after I bought this car, when I brought it back from Calgary, I took it to the local dealer to get an oil change, have it checked over, because nothing against Kulu Motor Car, but I wanted to be sure that Porsche thought this car was in good shape. So I took it there for an oil change and an inspection, and for that, which is about 2 hours, that's about $550. Yes, an oil change. That thing you can take your Chevy Cavalier or Aveo or Volkswagen to Mr. Lube and get for $49.95. But a person does not buy this car without recognizing that the costs are going to be higher. And that goes for any supercar, sports car, European, or even some Japanese like the LFA. Granted, that's a very different category in terms of price and availability, but prices will be higher for such things. Tires. Tires are another thing. You get a car like this, you're paying a lot more. It's as simple as that. And if you're a goofball like me and you drive in weather like this, as you can see, I'm currently on a skating rink of a parking lot. you're going to need winter tires. Now, are they prohibitive? No, not even close. For the full set on this car, it was just over $2,000, and these are Pirelli Soto Zeros. They're not cheap tires. And they have served me incredibly well. They've taken me to Los Angeles, they've taken me to Kelowna, and I still have lots of wear left on them. So, definitely a good tire to invest in, or any tire is a good investment as long as you're not going for the cheapest brand you can find. As for the regular summer tires, that's probably going to be about the same, around $2,000 for a set. Thankfully I don't need them yet, but the time will come shortly. Insurance. Insurance, of course, is an absolute necessity when you own any car, and depending on your driving record, of course, I don't need to tell you all that part, but insurance for this car, I'm paying just over $2,000 a year, which really isn't terrible. I have had one insurance claim already. Somebody hit my door. I had to get the entire door replaced, and there was some other body work required behind it to get everything back to factory proportions and lines. But $2,000 a year versus $5,000 for that door, I think that's a pretty good trade-off. Possible upgrades, another thing you need to take into consideration. I got spoiled by Android Auto, can't live without it, so I had to upgrade the infotainment system in this car. I think it was under $1,000. It's a Sony head unit with Android Auto, and it's got Sirius and various types of inputs. So for me, it was unnecessary. For most, it's going to be an option. I mean, you could just listen to Bluetooth music on anything you want. But another potential cost for you. Now, one thing I will definitely tell you, do not buy the cheapest. If your budget does not accommodate something at least in the middle of the price range of what you're finding, it's not the time. It's going to require a lot of work. Some 911s, the non-turbo models, they have a part called the intermediate shaft bearing, which is prone to failure. Granted, the previous owner will probably have already done that, but some cars, even with higher mileage, are still on the original, and if that goes, you're looking at a new engine, or at least a very big rebuild. So make sure you have the budget for what you want. It's great to be able to say, hey, I can afford that Gallardo that's $85,000, but what's wrong with it? Or you can go buy a 911 Carrera 2 for, if you find one, $15,000, $20,000. That's a great price. What's wrong with it? So if you're not buying from a dealer, I'm not saying that the individual selling the car is not going to be forthcoming and honest, but let's face it, some people are not. It's as simple as that. Always get a pre-purchase inspection if you're buying from anybody, in fact, unless it's the dealer itself. Like if you go to Porsche Center Winnipeg to buy a car, yeah, they're going to stand behind it. You go to Wysock Performance in Calgary to buy a Lambo, they're going to stand behind it without question. But make sure you can afford all the rest, all the unexpected things. Like if the water pump goes on this, that's going to be a lot of money. If a wheel bearing goes, or if the suspension goes, it's not going to be cheap, even aftermarket and going to an independent shop. So that is the biggest bit of advice I can give you. Make sure you can afford it, not just the purchase. Anyway, I'm going to go put some more miles on this car because that's what I love doing, and I will catch you next video.